Awesome. Yeah.
On to you, Sarah.
All right. Good to see you guys here today. Thanks so much for coming. So I'm really excited to show you some of the great newly published science trade books. I am Sarah Carlson. I'm going to be the presenter today for this webinar. I am the one of the Region 5 directors. I am a retired middle school and high school science teacher. I'm currently mentoring science and math teachers for the North Central ESD, which is located in Condon, Oregon. So my corner of the world is Northeastern Oregon. And I've been a member of OSTA and NSTA since I started teaching back in 1983. I'm currently serving on the NSTA OSTB, Outstanding Science Trade Book panel, for selecting the Outstanding Science Trade Books for the year. I want to put out a disclaimer that I'm a reading teacher, and I claim to have any special reading teacher endorsements. I love to read. I've loved reading to my children and to my students over the years. I love the possibilities that reading and art of illustration can bring to science teaching. So because of that love, I applied and was selected to be on the panel. So it is something that they bring in new members onto the panel every year. The panel consists of 9 people, and those 9 people do all the reading selecting for the year. And so 3 people rotate off and then 3 people rotate on. So if you're interested in the committee, the panel, they take 3 new people every year. It is a 3-year appointment. And so this is my 2nd year of the 3-year appointment. And so all the nominated books that I receive through this process, I donate to my local schools in the community that's helping me with the selection process. So I am here in Heppner, Oregon today, and Heppner, Oregon has been helping me do the reading and reviewing this year. So this is my shout out to the Floodtown Books and Andrea Nelson for being the keeper of the books since July. The books start coming in July, and we have the reading reviewing process goes from July until October. So Andrea's lent me her space, or some of her storage space, to house the books. We get 250 plus books to read and review every year. And Andrea is a STEAM teacher for the Heppner schools and owns this fantastic bookstore, and actually needs to be your next destination in Oregon. There is a really great little Airbnb room that's attached to this bookstore. So you can come, you can stay, and you can read. You know, what else could you ask for? It's really fantastic. So, and I also want to give a shout out to my reader reviewers for helping me get through all of the nominees. So at this point, you're probably wondering what makes an OSTB book. And this is a copy and paste of the checklist that I put into each book. The books are sent to me. I look them over, I check them in. Each nominee has a number that's given. It's a reference number that we use through the whole process of the book selection. And then I keep some of the books to read myself, and I hand books over to my reader reviewers. A reader reviewer then gets the book and is asked to read the entire book, everything, table of contents, look over the indexes, even the supplementary materials, making a note if there are any of these things on this list that are a problem. And then they rate the book on a 4-point scale. And you all, as being educators, know what a 4-point scale is. So an A would be like a 4, and a B a 3, and so on. And so if it's a really outstanding book, like this should be on the list, then it's given a 4. We can do half points, like a 3.5. We could even give it a 4.5 if it was a really super book, but that's how the system works. If there's something that is a problem in the book, then the reader reviewer puts a little mark next to that on the little sheet that I put in the book. And then I will take a closer look at the books that are rated a 3+. And I usually end up reading all of books anyway, but I really value the opinion of others before I put a final rating on a book. The ratings are all recorded on a spreadsheet that's kept by the Children's Book Council. So NSTA partners with the Children's Book Council in doing this project. And the Book Council works with the publishers of the books, and they actually preview all of the books before they actually are nominees for the OSTB reviewing. So then the books arrive between July and October. The OSTB panel itself meets only once to decide which books will be on the list for the year. It's like an all-day process. You know, we start at 7 o'clock in the morning because we're scattered all across the United States. And it usually takes us all day to decide what actually is going to go on the list for the year. So with that, I want to, if there are any questions about the process and what OSTB is all about, I'd be happy to entertain those questions right now. Okay. Once again, I want you to know I'm not an endorsed reading teacher. I'm a science teacher. I love to read. I do a lot of reading in my content area. And with all of my students over the years, I've just really encouraged reading. Bonus points to students who brought a book to my class to read when they got finished with their work. So I just really like to encourage reading in whatever way I can. There is a growing body of research that supports the use of trade books in the science classroom. If selected carefully, and I'll put that disclaimer on there, if selected carefully, trade books can be engaging to students and drawing them into science content that maybe they wouldn't necessarily take a look at. They can stimulate both the intellect and the mind. They're memorable. The students, make connections with the illustrations as well as the content, which makes a topic fascinating. And of course, we want that in order to create meaning. So they lend themselves to reading comprehension. We know that we want to cover the content, but also provide context, and that's what these books can do. So, and of course, last but not least, there are opportunities to clear up misconceptions and improve test scores. So, what more could we want? So I put in that little disclaimer about carefully selected, because trade books can present information, pictures, illustrations that can lead to misconceptions. So I just encourage select with care. And the one nice thing about the OSTB list is it's done all of that work for you. All of the, questionable illustrations or maybe questionable content or whatever, we've screened it. If it's questionable, it's not on the list. So you can go back and you can get past OSTB lists from past years. And that's a great resource, because you'll probably find those books not only in your school library, but public libraries as well. I want to make a note about why read aloud. I think that being read to is probably one of the most influential activities for building knowledge. And there's a growing body of research that suggests that background knowledge is the key to successful reading comprehension. So the question is, are you reading to your students? Do you have students read aloud in class to each other or to the class? Most elementary student or teachers do this, but for some reason, many reasons, middle school and high school teachers do not. But if you've never done that in your middle school or high school class, then I want to challenge you to try it, give it a try, and encourage you to do so. Even high school kids love picture books, and you would be surprised the picture books can contain some of the most profoundly stated information, and would require, as little as maybe 5 to 10 minutes of class time to present. So again, select carefully if you do, and you will find that your students will love being read to. And I just loved the responses that I got from my students when I read aloud in class. So with that, I want to get into some of my favorites. And how I'm gonna present this is I'll show you the book. I'll give you the bibliography information here on the slide, but you don't have to do any notes or note taking with this. I'm going to give you a resource page at the end of the presentation. It has all of that information on it. So the only thing that you need to note is a question if you have questions that come up as I am presenting these. So also, some of these books that I'm going to show you are on this year's OSTB list and some are not. So remember, this is a 9-member panel and we don't all agree. And if we don't all agree, the book doesn't get on there, and there be some really fantastic books that don't make the list. So I'm just going to show you my favorites. I put this list, the slideshow together back in November, which was before the actual OSTB list was published. And the list is sequestered until it can be published by NSTA and the Children's Book Council. So I'm going to show you my favorites, the ones that I would love to read to my students or find possibilities for use in the science classroom. So this first one is fun. It's called 13 Ways to Eat a Fly. And I really love this book because it's a unique and clever presentation of science meets subtraction. It's reverse counting involving predators and prey. The book starts out with a swarm of 13 flies that buzz by, losing one member to each predator along the way. They're zapped, wrapped, liquefied, and zombified, which are just fantastic verbs for beginning, readers to hear. And the verbs are highlighted on each page as we subtract a fly. So there are special features in a lot of these books. This one contains some fly anatomy, and also gives resources, books, websites, selected bibliography. So it's a really fun book. Next one, Ada and the Galaxies. This story is really fun and captivating. It's about a little girl who goes to visit her grandparents in Maine. She lives in the city, and so she never really gets to see the stars at night. And the day with her grandparents is just filled with exciting beach activities and all the fun that comes with going to visit your grandparents in Maine. But what she really wants most is to be able to see the beautiful stars at night. And she can't wait for the sun to set. My favorite part of the book is the illustrations that connect all things in nature with photographs that were taken from the Hubble telescope. So I think it's just a beautiful and unusual way to illustrate the real. So Ada and the Galaxies is a fantastic book for young readers. Animal Architects is just that. Humans are builders, but so are animals. And so some of these constructions include elaborate and very clever details. This book highlights some of the amazing animal constructions, both water and land. So here's an example from the book. It should show those to you. The book, the male bowerbird creates a really beautiful bower to attract a female mate. And so you can see there, the illustrations are just really unique and colorful. Some special features in the book are selected sources, and it includes both books and media. The beak book. This presents different beaks for different birds. It's a beautiful example of the birds with unique beaks for special purposes. The text highlights the functions of the beaks, and each example, bird and beak, presents the young students with a taste of interesting verbs for their developing vocabularies. There are special features. Each is a 2-page full spread. In the back compares the bird sizes to the human, which is fantastic, and shows where in the world those birds live, as well as there's a great bibliography and further reading list. Dear Tree Frog, this is one of my favorites, a great story, really joyful presentation in verse and illustration about life cycle and growth. The illustrations are also labeled with common names of the flora and fauna. The story presented in the book is about a little girl who discovers a special little creature in her new home. So she's just moved to this new place and she's exploring around her home. And a little quote from the book, "I see you suddenly among the tangled green, a tiny dollop of frog, where before there was only a leaf. Are you new here too?" So I love this book. It's just a great way to present life cycle to your students. All right, the Dirt book is 15 poems that explore the underground lives of anything that grows in the dirt: earthworms, spiders, ants, chipmunks, and so much more. This book has an unexpected layout. So just like a column in the soil profile, the book is vertical rather than horizontal. So it's really very unexpected, and it gives a really nice vertical panorama on each page. Rich language and word selection enhance the science information that it presents. So this is an example of the bumblebee page. So some of the writing, the bumblebee planning for spring. When autumn comes to the flowers, the queen needs a place to rest so she can live to build a nest when spring returns with its sunny hours. With a low buzzing sound, she digs a hole where she can creep, settle down, and fall asleep, snug and cozy underground. So some special features in the book. There's author's notes, bibliography on each of, and something about each of the different organisms that are presented in the book. I want an apple. The author, David Harrison, also wrote the Dirt book, which I just showed you. So this one too, he published this last year. He is a popular and prolific author of over 80 different children's books. The illustrator is also a cartoonist and animated film artist, David Catrow. So this book is just, I just think it's just visually really exciting. And so if you're doing something on the human body systems with young kids, I just think this is really fun. It's funny, it's an informative book on how the human body works for young students. Here's an example of what the pages look like. Each illustration just to me exhibits humor and action of this little girl, and she's accompanied by her dog. They find and eat and digest an apple. It's just really, really, really fun. 14 Monkeys by Melissa Stewart. You may recognize her name. because she is a very prolific children's nonfiction author. I think she's got maybe 180 books or something like that and published. It's just fantastic. But this 14 different species of monkey live together in the Manu National Park. She got inspired. She, I guess, was visited the park and was just really surprised by all of the different monkeys and put this book together. It presents the story of how all of these different species of monkey coexist together. And she uses just really rich lyrical language, beautiful illustrations of each species. The illustrations also show where in the rainforest tree canopy that species lives and inhabits. I also want to mention, I put a link to Melissa's website on the bibliography resource page that I mentioned. And I think that it's well worth going to, because she on there has just really great resources and literacy activities for each of her books. I mean, interesting literacy activities. So well worth checking out her website. So special features in this book. There's more about the monkeys of Manu and selected resources and further reading. But each species is given the species, genus species names given, as well as technical information about each of the different species, what they eat and all of that. So it's a fantastically beautiful book.
Excuse me, Sarah, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are you sharing a screen
Sure.
with us? Are you trying to share a screen with us? Are you trying to?
You should have it.
I'm not seeing a
I,
screen other than yourself.
I am, it says you are sharing. I don't know. Is anybody else having any problem seeing the PowerPoint?
I don't see a screen other than yourself.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I'm just raising in my hand to let you know all I see is your screen.
I
Okay.
can see it. I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect.
Your screen, but you, not a shared screen though.
Are you seeing my?
I can see your PowerPoint and I can see your face.
Okay.
How do I do that?
So I don't know what's going on, Dan. I don't know. I wonder if you tried logging off and logging back in? I don't know.
I just sent Dan a little message. I don't know. You check your Zoom icon. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 Zoom icons stacked up on the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
You can click and bring one to the top.
Okay, I'll try. Thank you.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to continue on. Over and Under the Canyon is my next favorite. This is another installment in the Over and Under books series by Kate Messner. So I don't know if you're familiar with her books, but she like over and under lots of different ecosystems and environments that she's published. This book takes the reader on a journey through the wonders that are concealed within the curves of the canyon and all the secret life that's hidden within. It showcases the desert as being a magical place to explore both day and night. And I love that making the desert a magical place to explore. So it features about each of the different plants and animals that are within the text and the reading, and it also gives a further reading books and websites list at the end of the book. The Secret Life of the Sloth. This is a really beautifully told story. It's the beautiful illustrations, the storytelling takes the reader on the journey through the year in the life of a female sloth. So it's a rare look at an unusual, elusive creature. Great introduction to this animal and life cycle. And I would just venture to say that many K2s have not been exposed to a sloth. So I just love how the possibilities that this book could present to young students. Special features include more about sloths, some extra information as well as a glossary resource page about books about sloths. Summertime Sleepers is another book by our award-winning author, Melissa Stewart, on animals that estivate. So not estimate, estivate. And a lot of people are like, well, what is that? Science teachers probably know, but young readers are going to be fascinated by all of the different examples of organisms that practice the summertime form of hibernation. Special features in the book include more about the animals that estivate, the estivation versus hibernation. What's the difference between those? The author and illustrators both give notes as well as selected resources. Disasters by the Numbers is an infographic type of book. I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Jenkins, but he is a Caldecott honor-winning author illustrator. And I say was because he just passed away just a few weeks ago. I guess that maybe makes his books all that much more valuable now. But this one is the 7th book in his By the Numbers series. And in it, he answers questions like, what makes a volcanic eruption so dangerous? Or what is the deadliest kind of natural disaster? Here's an example of a layout of the page from the book on thunderstorms. So he answers the questions, not just in words and descriptions and numbers, but through what he does best as an illustrator, the infographics. So there is a glossary and a bibliography in the book as well. But I love this because he illustrated this giant hailstone and put it the actual size in the book. So I love the to scale things that he does in his books. If you're not familiar with him, he's one to definitely put on your list to look for in your library. Now we'll get into a little more of the upper grade elementary books. This one, The Fearless World Traveler, The Adventures of Marianne North, Botanical Artist, is just a fascinating look at the untamed life of Marianne North. She was a woman who was born in the Victorian era, but she wasn't bound by it. She taught herself to draw and paint, and then took all of those talents with her as she traveled around the world. She had a really keen observational eye, and her passion for color brought the world botanical illustration as no one had ever seen before. The Marianne North Gallery was opened in the Kew Royal Botanical Gardens in 1882. And to this day, visitors can go and see over 800 of her different original paintings. To me, this just has so many possibilities for art and as well as science instruction. If you are not familiar with her work, definitely look her up. Just really exciting, interesting paintings. So special features in the book are Marianne North's legacy, her paintings, published writings, sources, and source notes about her. Fossils from the Lost Worlds is a big book. And fossil and dinosaur fanatics will love this. It's filled with really unique illustrations and information that are just sure to delight and inform readers as they walk in the footsteps of fossil hunters and relive famous paleontology discoveries. It's a pretty comprehensive journey of the fossil record, beginning with the oldest animal life from 500 million years ago and ending with the last of the giants 20 million years ago. Special features in the book include a brief history of paleontology and the geologic periods. This one is The Islanders by Mary Alice Monroe. It's a fiction story, but presents some really interesting facts about sea turtles. So the fictional story is just really fun, fun story for tweens. I would say, you're probably fourth, fifth, sixth grade students. The main character, Jake, goes to live with his grandmother on Dewey's Island. Dewey's Island is a nature preserve, which means that his summer is going to be no technology, no cell phones, no video games. And so he's pretty much forced to get out and find some friends. And he does. He meets a couple of other tweens, as I call them. Together, they manage to get in trouble. And as their punishment, they are given turtle duty. So you might ask, what is turtle duty? Well, those three kids become fast friends through their daily pre-dawn loggerhead turtle tracking and nest watching. And I loved how the author combined a fun, a realistic story with the facts about sea turtles. So, and there are resources given in the book as well. Great story. The Leaf Detective, How Margaret Loam Uncovered Secrets of the Rainforest. This is a picture book biography that tells the story of Meg Lowman. And she is a groundbreaking scientist who's called the real life Lorax by the National Geographic. And she was really determined to investigate and the marvelous undiscovered world of the tropical rainforest treetops. And she advocated for ecotourism as a way to preserve and educate the public on beauty and treasure of the rainforest. So special features, there's a section called The Rainforest Magic. There's also great resources, bibliography of videos, websites, and other source notes in the book. Master of Disguise is our Master of Disguise, Camouflaging Creatures and Magnificent Mimics. So this book features 12 of the world's most elusive species. Students are exposed to the organisms through their special camouflaging abilities. And then they're invited to find those tricksters in the illustrations. So kind of, where's Waldo with animals, and the factual text and the masterful illustrations really make this book a gem. I just put that in the gem category. Pando, a living wonder of trees. This is a tribute to Utah's quaking aspen grove, which is actually one living organism made up of close to 50,000 trees. Spectacular. If you've never seen it, it's down around Zion National Park. So go to Zion in October, and up on the hills are all these just beautiful quaking aspens, just in all their yellow glory. The author uses poetic language to convey the science and action needed to educate and preserve this ancient organism. So here's an example. All of these trees are one being called by one name, Pando. In the old language of Latin, its name means I spread, and spread Pando has. Pando began life as a seed. He's smaller than you, smaller than a mouse, smaller than even an acorn or a pea. He was a seed no larger than a speck of pepper. So I loved that. Special features include a glossary and then how you can help preserve Pando. Another fiction that presents some great facts, Rescue at Lake Wild, really features the beaver. And so those of us in Oregon, yay, beeves. When the main character, Maddie, and her two best friends rescue beaver kits, whose mother had been killed, they find themselves at the center of a local conspiracy that's putting the beavers and their habitat in danger. So together they race to uncover the threat targeting those beavers. Maddie puts her animal whisper skills to a test in both raising the orphaned beaver kits and staying out of trouble. So the young readers will enjoy this story, and it really couples very nicely with another book that I'm going to get to in a minute about beavers. So there are author's notes and some do's for wildlife at the end of this book. Spaiku, a clutter of short verse on 8 legs. This is fun. Award-winning poet Leslie Bullion and illustrator Robert Meganick team up together again. So if you're not familiar with their work, you can check them out and check out their past books. Humorous, accurate prose and illustrations of everything from the world of Araninae. What's a spider? What isn't a spider? Lots of spider facts and fun prose to delight. Here's an example. The Hawaiian happy face spiders. They're marked with smiles or with a frown. They're often yellow, sometimes brown, with spotty dots or blots of red. Variety may help them flee quite happily alive, not dead. So there's a lot of special features in this book, which is great. Helpful sidebars, call outs, and all kinds of back matter in the book. Includes a glossary of science terms, description of the poetic forms, which is fantastic. That means we can get the English language teacher involved with this book as well. It even gives, I love this, spider hunting adventure how-tos. And a list of common scientific names, resources for study, and a relative size chart, how all the different spiders measure up to themselves. All right, we'll move more into the upper grades. I put all the 6 to 12, 12th grade books together here at the end. This one is fabulous. It's Ambushed, the assassination plot against President Garfield. This was written by award-winning author Gail Jarrow. It delves into a fascinating story. This is the newest installment in her Medical Fiascos series. The one, I think the title was Blood and Guts. Last year made it onto the OSTB list. So she really researches things very well, and she writes fantastically. So if you are not familiar with the President Garfield story, in July of 1881, not less than 4 months after he was elected president, James Abram Garfield was assassinated, but he didn't actually die until 80 days later. And so this book is a real page turner, and it reveals the medical mistakes that were made in the aftermath of his assassination, including faulty diagnoses and outdated treatments that led to the president's demise. So she includes photographs and illustrations from the time that really enhance. This is a gripping text. And honestly, add this one. If you can't find a way to use it in your science classroom, read it yourself and get it yourself, because it is just a gripping story. My mother, who's 86, read the book and she just was awestruck by it. So I can't really mention that enough. It is a really good book. All right, this is the book that I was referring to a few minutes ago that would make a good companion to The Rescue at Lake Wild. This one is Beavers, Radical Rodents, or Ecosystem Engineers. So are these pests or are they ecological heroes? After reading the biology, the history, and the ecology that's presented in the book, you'll gain a fresh perspective on this furry, familiar, favorite organism. It's packed with facts and personal stories. This book looks at both the beavers' biology, behavior, history. It illuminates it as a vital role in our ecosystem as a keystone species. So if you're presenting keystone species to your students, this would be a great book to get a hold of. Special features include a glossary, resources from print, video, film, and online resources, as well as an index. Fred and Marjorie, a doctor, a dog, and the discovery of insulin. This is a really beautiful, I think it's a beautiful book. Frederick Banting was a young doctor who had an idea. It was 1921 when he and his assistant worked together in a small lab to test his theory out, the theory about pancreatic secretions, and he used street dogs to do that. He formed a really special bond with one of them that he named Marjorie. And after Marjorie responded well to the insulin treatments, the treatments went on to be used for humans with diabetes, and the results were deemed practically miraculous. I want to give you a look inside the book because this is a graphic novel, and it's just the story is told in an innovative, easy to read format. The book was also, it thoughtfully discusses the use of animals in medical research. And at the end, as a special feature, it gives a note about the ethical dilemma. So I encourage you to take a look at that book. Saving Soria, Chang the Sun Bear is another middle grade graphic novel adventure, but it's based on a true story. Chang is, as a girl grows up, and then she's finally accepted as into the rescue center that she's been volunteering in. And it's one of her toughest challenges is when she's tasked to returning Soria, a sun bear that she raised from infancy, back into the wild. Here's a look inside the book so you can kind of see what the graphic novel illustrations look like. So despite being different species, of course, Soria and Chang are best friends. And of course, letting go of a best friend is never easy, even when it's the right thing to do. This young conservationist overcomes the odds to save and return the sun bear to its natural habitat. So nice story for middle grade students. Scene of the Crime is a new nonfiction deep dive into forensic science. That you can learn the history of forensic science, how to collect and analyze evidence, get one step closer to being a world-class crime-solving person. It's really well written. Great photographs are used. I can't think of a better forensic science book out on the market. It just covers every topic involved with forensic science, from fingerprinting to DNA evidence, explains DNA evidence really well. It's just a fantastic resource to have in your science classroom if you teach forensic science. Tracking Tortoises, the mission to save the Galapagos giant. follows field biologists, veterinarians, and volunteers as they work to keep the current Galapagos tortoise populations healthy. It gives the life history, evolution, and geology, and all of that just completes the picture of what really goes on the islands and of the tortoises, and all of the efforts that are done to keep these ancient reptiles from extinction. So some special features in the book include Galapagos tortoise timeline, glossary, websites, as well as an index. And this is the last book that I want to feature tonight, but it's not the least. It's What About Will? And I just thought it was a really interesting nominee for the OSTB selection committee to look at. It is questionable to whether it should be a nominee, as it is fiction and it deals with mental health. So, and not so much science or science concepts within. You read it, you be the judge. The story is about a 12-year-old boy named Trace Reynolds and how he has always looked up to his older brother, Will. Will was knocked out cold during a football game, resulting in a traumatic brain injury that left him changed forever. It left him with a facial tic, depression, uncontrollable anger. It culminated in a parent's divorce. Trace begins to cover for Will, who's struggling with addiction to pain medication, and becomes someone that Trace does not recognize. So I don't know if you're familiar with Ellen Hopkins, who is the author of this book. She's written a number of teen novels dealing with modern problems that teens deal with. This one is just a really tender middle grade novel in verse about the bonds between two brothers and the love that they share. So again, it's a questionable science book, but it's notable in the story and the telling of it. And I put it on my list of favorites because I just think that right now we have mental health at the forefront of our minds because of the pandemic that we've been living through these past couple of years. Our students are dealing with a lot. And this book presents an opportunity for perspective. So even if you don't use it for your students, I would recommend that you read it. And if you've never read an Ellen Hopkins novel, do pick this one up because it is really, it's special. It's very special. So where can you find the OSTB lists? Both NSTA and the Children's Book Council have the lists on their websites. They are also on my bibliography and resource page that I'm going to put up in the chat. I don't know, Lori, maybe you can you put that in there, or I can put that up in a minute.
Yes, did it.
You are so good. Lori Lancaster, my compadre from OSTA, she is on it. All right. If you are not already, I want to invite you to become a member of OSTA. These are a group of K-12 teachers or K-12 plus teachers who are committed to science education. OSTA presents webinars and in-person events. Sam Keene will be our next month's webinar, and the in-person event and book signing are planned for April. OSTA also sends out monthly newsletter electronically. It's called The Toast, the Oregon Science Teacher. The OSTA membership is $25 a year, and this is something that most school districts will fund. So consider budgeting for this expense now, as school districts are doing budget planning during the month of February. So put that on your list of to-dos, add OSTA membership to that. Also consider we'll have a fall conference. So consider budget, putting something in the budget for that as well. There will be more information to come on this in-person event with Sam Keen. Become a member and stay informed on this. If you are not familiar with Sam Keen's books, I encourage you to check them out. The Disappearing Spoon, I think, was his first book that he put together. Other titles of his include The Tale of the Dueling Neurosurgeons, The Violinist's Thumb, Caesar's Last Breath, all of them really great science reads. If you're not familiar, check them out.
And so I'm going to,
yeah,
so I'm going to, I would like to take over from here.
wanna,
I'm going to put in the chat the exit
Okay,
survey for those of
jump
you who
in.
would like to get the PDUs. And so it's there now. And I just want to let everyone know who's here too, while you're filling that out, that as an OSTA member, you have access to our webinar or webcast archives. It is a members only feature of our website, and you can access them. And we have up like 26 webcasts so far, 3 of them with Oki Lee, who's an amazing presenter. We're going to be having her again. I put the archives here. You can only get to this archive list if you're a member and logged in. And so we get regular updates from the Oregon Department of Education. So Jamie and Noel regularly join us. Berkeley and Susan are amazing middle school science teachers and have done several workshops on how to really next genify your classes. And Bradford Hill, who's essentially the founder of the Patterns Physics resource. So there's a lot of great stuff on there that you could access. Okay, so go ahead into the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, why we want to be a member. As a member of OSTA, you become part of the bigger, larger community. Okay. And it's only $25. And we try really hard to provide you with relevant professional development opportunities like these. And we are also planning right now the statewide in-service. Well, it's not going to be during the in-service day. Right now it's scheduled for October 8th. Which is a Saturday, and it's going to be, I think, in Redmond. So again, we were waiting for a confirmation, but you're going to become a part of a larger professional organization. You are a science educator. Even if you're an elementary teacher, you guys are amazing. I bow to the elementary teachers who teach all this stuff. And these books are a great way. Kids are so science oriented. They're natural scientists and engineers. And we want to make sure we foster the curiosity and make sure that what they're getting science-wise is correct. Okay, so we would really like you to join us. Again, it's not that expensive. Again, $25 a year, sorry. And you can get access to everything and reduced prices. These webinars would be free and access to the archives is free. And you will get membership discounts on other events that come up. So go ahead to the next one. So again, I put the link to join. And again, this is just what you're going to get with your membership. And we really appreciate you being here. And I'm going to stop the recording for right now.